Good evening.
It's Friday.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Debs.
Stay tuned.
It's Codes of the Unknown.
You nearly forgot then.
Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
There's Arnold and Philip at the bottom. We're just waiting for Ronnie.
He's not been abducted. Don't worry, they haven't got him.
I was going to say we've got half of our guests tonight. So.
Yeah. You'd be shocked if you dropped from the ceiling straight into that chair, though.
Well, we have a sense of humour. He'll be down in just a moment.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So, where are we going to start?
Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with your... Well, mind you want to know about Ronnie's opinion as well as Philip's, don't you, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be down in a moment. That's all. That's all right.
Yeah, it's only because I've got another question for Ronnie. I was asked. Oh, can't speak. Not good, is it? Someone mentioned about the Cheshire Cat.
Oh, with Ronald, yes.
Yes, because I've had something that might be similar to that as well. Not so
long
ago.
That would, yeah. Do you know? I remembered when he told me about that. We were only kids, and of course he had his experience, and aged 13. It was 1982, I believe, and mine was in 1989. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 years apart. And one of the things that really frightened him is that I remembered that he'd seen the doctors. He called them the doctors. I mean, he's written about this. And spoken about it, and also of the holographic projection of what he called the Cheshire Cat, which was far more gruesome than the Alice in Wonderland's version. And he is still maintains, he'll be here in a moment to explain, he maintains that was some kind of, insurance on the doctor's behalf, so that if he'd gone to see a counselor or a psychologist or even a regressionist, they may then in those days have said, "Oh, you've been watching too much of Alice in Wonderland, and that all that's happening is that some fantasy within your mind is replaying." But one of the things I will state here categorically is that even during that time, I think we'd only seen Alice in Wonderland once. In fact, our favourite film had been The Wizard of Oz that we used to watch with our grandmother. And that tells you everything about what's going on in the world today, doesn't it? Men behind curtains. Yeah, but that I remember. And he used to put books up his back, sleep with books when he went to bed, because we lived in a big Victorian house in Luton then. It was up there were big houses, and we weren't money, but it's what we had. And we shared a room. We had this big room, and he would sleep with books in his back. And I remembered that we used to put a guitar of mine by the door, so that if anyone entered through the door, it would make a noise. But he now understands that they took him up and through the house, through doors. Yeah.
Wow.
But his experience was very different from mine. I mean, mine in 1989, we'd moved to the village of Mastermortain, a rural village, a beautiful village. We're now in Kempston, which is only a couple of miles up the road.
Yeah, that's not far from me. I'm only in Northampton.
Yeah, and we lived in a cul-de-sac, quite a big house. But my experience was more savage and raw than Ronald's. And we, I think for a lot of people, when you start to investigate the UFO phenomena, especially with regards to the abduction hypothesis and the grays of what I'm very interested in them. But, you find that a lot of people have different experiences, but there are patterns which are unique in a sense that we can establish, at least to some degree, that the phenomena is real, that is the case, but it happens on an alternative level of reality. And whereas before I used to believe that, aliens and UFOs operated on a very physical level of integration, I'm not saying that their crafts don't come into the Earth sphere in physical nature. They probably manifest that way. Rather like we manifest thoughts into reality, but all on a slow process because we have to create it here on Mother Earth. But, I was always under the impression it was physical, but the experience that I had, and indeed Ronald had, suggests otherwise. So we're having to look at the phenomena in a deeper level of consciousness and also of interdimensional theories there, because I believe that we're dealing with more than spacemen here. I think that there's something far more evolved that's connected with this.
I agree with that.
Can I just ask, so when you had your experience, was you out and about? Was you outside, or was it in the house?
The first part of the experience happened that early evening when I'd come back from work. It was winter. It was December of 1989. I didn't drive then. I got the old rickety train from Bedford to Millbrook, and I had to walk about 1.5 miles to get home. And then, of course, I walked into the kitchen, and my sister and my brother were there with our dog, and I have been, laughed at because our dog, but the dog was present there, Benji. Where our house was, all of the house was, the glass doorways were all glass. The kitchen door was glass, and that led into the big kitchen diner and then the conservatory. So when I come back home and just relaxed and laid back against the cabinet, and my attention was focused out towards the hall where the glass door was. We had a driveway, and there were 2 parts to our garden out there with trees. And my brother was standing in front of me, but he didn't have direct alignment to the hall because the wall was there where the dining room is. My sister was to my left. And a small being, to cut a long story short, there was this light that came up from the driveway, and I thought Mum had come home from work early, driving up our driveway, and the light intensified. But as that was happening, my brother beforehand the atmosphere changed. It became electric, and my brother suddenly froze, and he raised his head up to the ceiling, and his very words were, "There's going to be an earthquake, or Grandma's going to die." They were exactly the words that came from his mouth. And I looked at him thinking, what the hell are you talking about? But he's looking up, he's staring up at the ceiling. I don't know what my sister was doing. It seemed now that they had been disabled. The dog was going mad, and then this light that intensified, as incredible as it was, this being, 3-foot small, diminutive being with a large, what I thought was a motorcycle on its head, but it could have been that it was its cranium, walked through the light that was making the door pliable, as though it was like one of those cartoons, like a character walking through or stretching through something. And then, of course, the rest has been talked about or analysed, although you haven't got a damn bit of proof, have you, at all? You can only rely on your witness testimony. But that was if I can use the word physical part. The second part, that in the early hours of the morning, was where I found myself floating on my back in the hallway, 3 foot on my back in the hallway, floating, suspended, and being pulled through the glass doors to the kitchen and then out to the back through the conservatory. My mind screaming, how is this possible? How am I able to get through solid matter? That's not possible. But remember, the same thing happened with the strange entity that came through the door earlier. And when this progressed into what they call an abduction, where I dare I say it, was on a spaceship or a craft, examined it with something, an examination that was very embarrassing that you can't talk about without being laughed at. But the situation was horrific.
Yeah.
And everything was real to me. So I feel that this kind of like many years later in 1996, after 1989, in 1996, I kept thinking about this experience that truly affected me. There's a lot more to the experience, and there's a connection that brilliant researcher Pierre Sabat put together for me in terms of what happened to my brother and what happened with one of the other entities that seemed to be mimicking what he had been doing earlier.
Right.
So this led me then into the understanding that these beings, whatever they are, obviously operate on two levels. One is physical, one is perhaps interdimensional. And before people jump to an obvious conclusion and say, how can that be possible? I also discovered and know that there are two parts to us. We are physical, and we also have a non-physical part, which is the soul consciousness. And studying the near-death experiences shows us that when people have had those experiences, and I certainly have seen the other side on two occasions, but that's a different, you can't fit that into the UFO phenomena because strangely they separate the NDE from the abduction, which is understandable, but the principle is there. When someone has crossed over, the experience appears to mirror the abduction phenomena, but in more times than not in a negative way. Now, my understanding then was looking into what the greys may represent. And I know that some people have got it all worked out. Well, good luck to them. But I'm very understanding of all areas of contemplation and research regarding the alien hypothesis. No one can say we've got it because we haven't, but we must dare to venture outside of our comfort zone to look at new areas or theoretical models in order to try to piece together what's going on.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Well,
so that for me was life changer.
But can I just quickly tell you what I experienced?
Oh, please,
So I know I've spoken about it before, and I'm sorry if it's anyone doesn't want to listen to it, but I was near Peterborough, the Fens area where it's all flatlands going over towards King's Lynn.
Oh, yes. I had to think then. I'm sorry. Yes, I know what you mean.
It's like the other side of Peterborough. So I'm driving around there, and I'm heading back in towards Peterborough Centre, and I'm all country roads now, and I'm coming up to a crossroads. So I'm turning right at the crossroads. There's only one house at the end of this country road, and there's a car parked right outside the house. So I'm slowing down because it's only about 20, 30 foot away from the turning. So I thought if something comes around the corner, I'm going to either have to slow down or speed up and get around the car. Either way, I'm going to have to pull up.
Right.
So I'm like anticipating what's going to happen. And I'm probably about 50, 60 foot away. And what I thought was a small dog at first walked out in front of this car. And it was like, it just didn't look right. It didn't have any hair. It was like a gunmetal grey colour, but its head was really big. So I'd say it was about the size of a medium-sized dog. You know how big a Maine Coon is?
Yes.
Probably as big as that, but it just come out of this garden. I didn't see it come out of the garden. I just seen it walking in front of this car. So it stopped at the car, looked straight at me in my van, turned round and walked back into the garden. But it wasn't a normal walking. It was like it was animated. Just the way it moved. It was like, didn't have any hair, no fur on it. It's like its head was too big for its body.
Yes. And you hear...
notice. Sorry, I just going to say, I didn't notice any eye colour. I'm presuming the eyes were dark. But as it had gone into the garden, it was all... There was a fence and bushes and that in the garden. There was a gate. But as you drive past, because I've been past this house a few times since, and I always slow down and have a look, you can see right into the garden. So if it was a cat, as I was going past, I would have seen it either going into the house or into another part of the garden or somewhere. But there was nothing there.
And
just,
you know, and
well,
this is the crazy thing, isn't it? These beings. I mean, we're not just talking about alien interaction that we call alien interaction, most notably with the famous Greys, because you know they're one of the most famous reported entities seen, as well as you know, the Reptilians now, because people are talking about those. But you know, you hear this where they seem to come out from nowhere. The same with werewolves. Paul Sinclair has been reporting in Bempton and through his amazing research, and also at Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, where these beings, there was one episode there where there was a hole that opened up and these beings came out. I mean, you know, it's really very strange when we try to, and this is what makes it almost an impossible science, because there's no way that we can, you know, if it was one entity, one thing, then I think we might have some headway in understanding what it is. Like a species here on our planet, we have it, we watch it, we study it, and then we get information. But this phenomena continuously eludes us, and I think that this is what a lot of researchers are having a hard time understanding, because they're banging their heads against the wall thinking, well, what the hell are we dealing with? What, you know, what are we? But we do know that it's real, that it is actually real. And ladies and gentlemen, I think and feel that Ronald Kinsella is just about to join us in a few moments. I hear from Alpha Centauri, because we have a sense of humor, that they're going to beam him down in just a moment.
Is he coming from Moon Base 1?
Yes, we're going to sit there and go, we do have a sense of humor. And that's another thing that, you know, that you do need with regard to this subject matter. You've got to have a wicked sense of humor as well. You know, because I think, you know, we tend to take things too seriously. But it is a serious subject, that much I do know. And one of the things I will say, when you have had them, when I mean them, the UFOs, the experience that we had on the 9th of April 2016 at 11:15 p.m. exactly at night, that had also been reported elsewhere in England, they are real. And that is what shocks you. And here he is, Ronald. Here we are. That's all right? Thank you very much indeed.
If you've not got him on a little pillow to lower him down.
I'm so sorry. Thank you very much. I'm really sorry about that.
Don't worry.
No
nice
problem.
to meet you.
And you too. Debs, it's lovely to see you. And Andy, God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming on tonight as well.
Yes, thank you.
Really do appreciate it.
Oh, no, and thank you for changing it, because we were in a bit of a tricky situation last time, weren't we? Well, like tonight. And Earl Grey, we had to thank Earl Grey, because he stepped in, bless him, lovely old Earl. Left of the old movie Earl.
And he says that he sends his regards and everything. So.
Yes,
oh, bless him, He's a good guy, lovely guy.
Yeah.
While we're still on the subject, Philip, there's a question from Pat wanting to know, did the Grey mind speak with you?
Now, that is very interesting. I believe that this form of mental interaction was occurring, but when I was in that state, when I was taken on this so-called craft, and because we still don't know what it was, to me it was a craft, the classic, you know, UFO. When I was unstrapped or released from the examining table and the one of the implements being removed on its own, the Grey was almost cold within its dialect. You know, dress, and it was almost like a cold response. So I believe, and when the last part of the experience happened, when I was brought down onto the ground, and there was the famous Noddy figure that was standing in front of me, real mean. That shocked me and still does today. I was pressing him because I was so angry. I was pressing him mentally, Francis. I wanted to know how the hell I was able to get through solid matter, because I was violated, I was angry, and I wanted to punch him. I was so angry because of what they'd done, but he was more angry with me. But what he did was that he slowly lifted his head up to the underneath of his craft, and he started to rasp in this unintelligible electronic sound that was reminiscent to the voice synthesizer that we had for our ZX81 going all those many years ago. And he was mimicking, scrambling, as Piers Tabak said, what my brother had been doing. It's almost like he was mimicking what my brother, when he looked up to the ceiling and was this nonsensical, there's going to be an earthquake or grandma's going to die. So it was to me like we're speaking, but it was, yes, I believe it must have been through the mental processing. People say, well, don't you know from one to the other? Well, let me tell you, when you're in that situation, it's a little bit difficult to sit there and take notes with everything that's going on. It just happens.
Mad.
Very.
We normally do the questions in the second half, but seeing as we've got a few coming in, Ruby wants to know, Philip and Ronald, do you think you have implants from meeting the Greys?
Well, I have never seen, to my mind, I have never seen the Greys, but that might be a contradiction, because the encounter I had with the doctors in 1982, it appears now that it was some kind of smokescreen. Thank goodness for the researchers, because very well-educated researchers I've met who suggested that doctors and cartoons are commonplace with what the Greys do. I can't say if they were or not, but it does strike me as factual, and I'll say that when these things took us, certainly the doctors, they must have put something in us. Yeah. This is a common trait we find with abductees, is that they are implanted. And of course they would. They're trackers, aren't they? They can find you quite swiftly. Yeah. Once these things are put in. I can't prove it, of course, but it would seem logical.
Well, I had something in my right ear, and I believe that, although there's no way of proving this, although it's on the records, the doctor's records, that I'd gone for this reason, I will explain that I had problems with my right ear. If I'd shower, it felt like something was lodged in there. Every time I could feel, the time when you kind of squeeze your jaw and you feel like that sound in the back of there, there's something lodging here. Yeah. So what happened was that I had gone to the doctors for them to have to look in both ears. I didn't go in there saying, oh, doctor, I think I've got an alien implant. I mean, how would that go down? I mean, but I will surprise you in a moment. Because the doctor had a look, armed and armed for the first time, and then left it. And then I went back a second time, and the second time I went back was where it had been, the experience that I had had been on one of my birthdays. I lay down to relax, I think for the excitement, and I felt something in my right ear pull back, literally move. And I was so shocked, I got up thinking, there is something in that ear. I know there's something in that ear, and it's been in there a very long time. So I went back to the doctors again, and they had a look in and didn't say much of anything. That was it. Now, the last time that I went was an eye-opener, because I thought, I'm fed up with this. I heard about implants. Could it have been an implant? I don't know. A part of my mind was saying this is possible, because, and there's a really good reason for what I'm going to say here. Gone back to the doctors for the third time, and when I went to the doctors, I walked in, and the doctor took out the device they use. I can't remember what it's called now. I'm not that clever with medical stuff, but they put it in my ear, and she was umming and ahhing in the right ear. And she said, could you hold on for a moment? So she went away, and she got another doctor from upstairs. Yeah. And this other doctor had a look. They were both female doctors, and she said, these were her words. She said, it looks like it's still healing. It has some kind of crystalline structure to it. And then, unbelievably, and I've said this at some lectures and people, laugh because they don't believe it, but as God is my witness, she put the device down and she went back, and the doctor in front of me, and then we go say, she said, have you been abducted by aliens? And I walked back to my car, far worse than when I went in, but nothing was done. Nothing was. Now, you would think, wouldn't you, that they would send me to an ear specialist, especially at Bedford Hospital. They didn't. There was no more mention of it. There have been some other developments that I can't mention here at the moment, but all will be revealed soon.
It would make sense. There's a good question you raised about being chipped or an implant, because it's funny, after that, we started seeing the UFOs every 2 or 3 years. Every 2 or 3 years we saw them. So it would seem that they would know where you are or your vicinity, because if they put something in you, you'd light up like a Christmas tree to them. So the only thing I can think of is when this happened, that's why we saw these UFOs, because there's some kind of connection. When people talk about connection with them, well, yes, it would be. If they put something in you, that you're part of their property. You are for them to do as they wish.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It is. It's,
There's no way of categorically proving that it had been an implant, but to my mind, when you've had an experience that shatters your perception of reality, and I always say to people, please, please, please be very honest and grounded with what happened to you. Report only the facts as the facts as we see them. But one of the things that I did was I started to research this, because I thought, well, you know, I can't be the only one and Ronald be the only one that have had these so-called experiences. This was back, remember, Ronald was back in 1982. I mean, you daren't talk to anyone then about aliens or UFOs. I mean, goodness me. We did have a teacher, however. His name was Mr. Charles, a pipe-spoken Mr. Charles, a good gentleman. And he was very much interested in the unexplained, because he'd actually told me and Ronnie privately that he'd seen a UFO. I think we must have opened up to him, because another wonderful teacher, when we were at what was called then Stockwood High School in Luton, called Miss Horton, she, just before a summer holiday, we went to go and see Mr. Charles with Miss Horton, and Miss Horton said, Mr. Charles has got something for you both to take away on your summer holiday. And he gave us an entire collection of paranormal magazines. And Miss Horton said, now you will look after them, won't you? Of course, we look after everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, even back then, it was all a taboo subject. It was all hush-hush, wasn't it?
Yeah. The thing with these encounters, I mean, I've only seen the doctors once, to my mind. What they were was a deception. Because as a kid of 13, you know, when you get older, you realize that, you know, they spoke the Queen's English. They were portrayed in a medical kind of environment. And what they showed me afterwards, the hologram, as a nasty trick, as Zoe mentioned to me, a nasty trick to cover what they were doing, was just ingenious, so that if I go and see a psychologist, because what they showed me when they dropped me back down after this alleged operation in 1982, I mean, I was horrified, terrified of them, because they were so strange. But they did this alleged operation, knocked me out, and they sent me back down, and they projected on the ceiling this hologram, and I knew it was a hologram, even at 13 years old. It was a clever trick, but very clever, incredible technology, or a mirage. The head of a Cheshire cat, and he was the head of it. He was massive, and this was a horror to behold, because it put Lewis Carroll's version to shame. So this is their version. He was quite horrific. All his teeth were sticking out. And I knew later on, this was a massive deception. This was a film. This is a, as they call it, a screen memory. I gather you both know, a screen memory. So what they'd done is they covered it. But my argument was always this, I couldn't work it out, was that if they could knock me out prior to alleged operation, why on earth couldn't they knock me out before snatching? It would have made it so much easier. It's as if they want you to see them. You have to see them. Now, is this to promote fear? Someone advised me many years later when we researched this that the Cheshire Cat might have been something to comfort you. He was anything but.
It definitely didn't.
That was an insurance policy on their behalf. So that if I go and see a psychologist, he would say, well, look, the doctors are your fear of the medical establishment. The Cheshire Cat is just a memory from a film. You're just getting confused. How nasty is that? How very clever and nasty.
Devious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
It is. It's I forgot, deceitful, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, it's hard enough. I mean, I had to cover it all up. I couldn't tell anyone. 13.
No.
You told me.
I told Philip, but I'm talking about your adults, your peers. You can't mention it, because at that time there was a famous medium on TV, and even that was taboo. So then, if mediums are taboo, which she was a brilliant medium, we now know she was authentic, she was genuine. You know, what on earth are they going to think about UFOs? You know, all these alleged aliens. I guess I did wonder if they were being kind by concealing their difference in these suits much later on. But then I thought, it doesn't make sense. They wouldn't show kindness. They wouldn't. They don't seem to show any pity or kindness. So it is strategic. It was strategic on their behalf.
So just one more question from Ancient Ruby. She wants to know, did either of you have any missing time?
Sorry?
did either of you have any missing time?
Well, I mean,
not to my knowledge, no.
No. I think that with my experience back in 1989, in the winter of 1989, Master Mortain, the house that we lived in there, I mean, there could well have been a period of missing time because, you know, in that state, and people say, what do you mean in that state? Well, how on earth are they able to get you through physical matter? And I have a theory about that. I think I know to a degree, you know, it's only theoretical of what was going on and what they were doing. There could well have been a moment of lost time, if that makes any sense, because when I was pulled up after being dragged through the solid matter of the house out to the garden, and I viewed one of these crafts that wasn't moving, and I was pulled up to it, there was a gap of time. And of course, the next moment that happened was that I woke up in a strange, dark, semi-dark environment, naked, strapped to a bed. And of course, there were several other things that were occurring simultaneously. So I think there was some missing time. But what Ronnie quite rightly states here, very correctly, is that, you know, if they're able to take you, which they obviously appear to be able to do through solid matter, why can't they just knock you out for the whole experience so you come back with no memory of it? And as Ronald said, it's curious, isn't it, that they want some form of, and I believe this as well too, they need some kind of connection.
You have to see them. When I wrote my book, The Digital Demon, there was a wonderful gentleman there who works for MUFON. He had seen the Greys, and they came through the wall. He said, Ronnie, do you know, it was like something from Scooby-Doo, because they had generated this kind of portal. They were coming through the wall, these Greys, but what they did was they kept him awake. His wife was asleep, so they had knocked her out, but they wanted him to see them. This is the thing; they want you to see them. So this is a clue to whatever they are. I don't call them aliens, because we don't know what they are. Interdimensional, I think so. It's possible. But you know, we give them this. We label with this as if they're from outer space, from Zeta Reticuli or the Draconian star system. We don't know. We have no idea. There's something. They are real, but to my mind, what I looked into is that I don't think they're the real McCoy. I don't think they're the real thing. They are a reality when they're upon us, but as to their true faces, I don't believe we're seeing them, because it's like what's in vogue, isn't it? As Jack Valet had mentioned that anyway, that it changed faces. So is this thing toying with us, or does it need something from us? Is it possible that these abductions are used to generate fear? Does it feed off fear? You know, does it require this to exist or to penetrate our reality?
There's also the question as well too, is whether or not we are connecting with a singular conscious entity, or whether or not it is multidimensional. And that means to say that perhaps, you know, I always was puzzled by, we heard all these stories, which are true, of the Nordics and all these other giants and things coming forward. But I wrote an article one point, where are the aliens? Where are they?
Well, the point is that you're making
is that they are not. They are here, then they're not. So I think this now, a lot of researchers are now looking into areas of consciousness, of you know, interdimensional theory. And the other thing that I find interesting is that a lot of people, astronomers and astrophysicists, and you know, those that are looking into the quantum realm of reality, is looking outwards, so that when we're looking at our universe, one of the things, and I know, you know, we have to sidetrack a little bit here, but in terms, even with our creation, it makes me laugh, and Ronnie agrees with me here, like everyone else. Oh, there was a big bang. Well, nothing starts without something. There's always, you know, cause and effect. And what our universe could be one of a multitude of other universes that are perhaps much older than our one. And the birthing of this one, maybe through this said Big Bang, to create this new form of evolution in the material Earth sense, is that, you know, some of these species may evolve very differently from us, and that have found this universe where we create, where we reproduce.
Yeah.
And of course, this now brings into the equation which I'm working on with regards to soul, consciousness, the afterlife, what we represent as a human species. Because let's face it, we don't yet know a lot about what we are, let alone what we're actually dealing with. So I think that this will lead us into new areas of investigation. So, you know, I know a lot of other researchers, brilliant researchers, are scratching their heads and asking the same questions. It's just trying to prove it, that to get the results that we need.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Can I just ask a quick question? Do you think that you was both taken because you are twins? Do you think that was the connection?
That's a good question. The problem we have with that is I don't think so, because, I mean, looking into these greys, people assume them to be clones.
Yeah.
The trouble is, if they're masters of cloning, they don't need twins.
No.
So they wouldn't need us for that. No, I don't believe that. It's a good question, though. I have thought about it. And another point I'd like to raise about this paradox is the fact that, you know, researching about the aliens, when I did my own research into it, I mean, I looked heavily into the past contactees who were taken by them, and they were expressing their concerns for world peace, then atomic, now nuclear warfare. Well, my argument always was, simply put, is the fact that if they are so concerned, and it would cause some kind of devastation on both ours and their scale, which was reiterated by them, they would take matters into their own hands and nullify them themselves. They could do it.
Yeah.
They didn't. If they did, we'd build more. We had undoubtedly built more. They would. They do the same. We can't win. They've won. Now, people contest also the fact that that would be a violation, you know, on their behalf. They're not allowed to interfere, but they're doing that already because they're here.
That's right.
So it's a contradiction in itself. Everything always is with this, a contradiction. You know, we move on then, as I said before, we move on to more of now it's the environment, the environmental concerns. So they keep shifting from one to another and to another, and we're never going to get there. It's as if this is disconcerting, because I know there will be people arguing to the contrary. The people believe that they're here for peace and unity and wisdom. I'm not going to tread on their toes. I'm not here to argue that case. This is my opinion. I don't believe that. I think that's nonsense. I think it's that we're being stalled. Something is stalling us all the time. It's capturing us, looking at us, generating some kind of thing from us, whether it's fear or interest, and it keeps us occupied in that manner. It's like like a rabbit or a hare being mesmerized by the approaching headlights of a car. We're distracted. What's going on behind this all?
Yeah, I also feel when that good question. First of all, I've always stated that each and every one of us are important. I don't see any difference between us. I've always seen us all as like vessels that have signals or consciousness that's recording experience through this reality. And like your mobile phones, you've got the Nokia iPhone. They're all different modules, but but they all are doing the same thing, except the information that's being carried through the signaling is different. It's got different experiences in it. Now, what's interesting is that it could be possible that the aliens, for want of a better word, let's just call them aliens here for ease of the explanation, are tuned in to certain individuals who are breaking away from the normal processing of reality. That is to say that when we're born, we're programmed. You know, we're told that this is right and that is right and this is wrong and this is real, that's not. And so it's up to us. When you go through an experience that shatters your perception of reality, and when you are told by a system that by design is meant to be honest and truthful and working in your favor, when it tells you categorically that no, that you're lying, that you haven't had experiences with so-called aliens or seen UFOs, what does that tell you? But going back to the question, that really annoys me, because they're all changing their tunes slightly now, and it's like that really grinds my gears, as Pete from from Family Guy says. But one of the things I will say is that perhaps there is an evolution going on of consciousness, so that certain minds are rebelling against the constant programming and are deliberately moving themselves away. And this may be something that these other intelligences or interdimensionals are interested in, because they probably light up like a light bulb. Can I give an example here of this?
Yeah.
So I did an experiment many years ago, and it worked every single time. So I believe that as human beings, currently here in this reality as human beings, because we're going through a human experience, we're all connected consciously. To a degree, we're all connected, although we're different vessels. And what I used to do was I would get up and say, right, I am going to have a really positive day. I'm going to be, not that I'm not positive, but you know when you're like at work and people and God knows what, and I thought, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be really great and wonderful.
I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
And do you know what would happen? Do you know what would happen? I'll tell you what happened. I had the worst day from bloody hell. I would end up then reverting back to this feeling of, oh God, you know, oh how, and then everyone's like, oh, it's okay. So I think I know what's going on. On a deeper level of the subconscious mind, that the pen that we're all trapped in, because we are sensibly trapped to a degree, we can't get off this planet, are holding anyone that comes out of that mold, like wants to go up. It's like, nah, you're going to stay with us, and they'll pull you back down. And that is why several interesting factors appeared with regards to the UFO phenomena, because when I started exploring this, I found then that people would be offish and situations would be strange, and it was almost as if I shouldn't go down this road to study this phenomena, even though you've been through your varied experiences, as it were. So it felt like everything was against you, and there was a time where I pulled away from it. I pulled away from doing UFO research. I was in my late 20s, and it felt like I could breathe. It felt like that all this curse had gone. But then there was a part of me like, no, I've got to go back in it. So I think that, you know, this says a lot about energy, about, you know, consciousness on varied levels of awareness. And I think that this intelligence, whatever it is, knows and interacts with you, and perhaps disabling or disrupting other people around you. Like going back to the doctor that said to me, have you been abducted by aliens? And nothing more was done about it. Like I shouldn't have it investigated. It's weird. It's like a series from The Invaders. And by the way, that was a really good series. And I think that's got a lot to say about what's going on.
Yeah, you might be right there.
Yeah.
Right. So now, sorry, Andy, go on.
I was just saying, do you want to do the next question, or do you want to do something else?
No, I was just going to say, why don't you tell everybody what happened this morning?
Oh yeah. So you didn't hear, did you, Ronald?
No.
So this morning, well, where I work, I was near Rendlesham Forest this morning. I was driving. I don't know the name of the road. It runs all along it, and then there's about half a mile or so that cuts through the forest, then comes back out. I was going from Ipswich to Woodbridge. Now, I was on the phone to my missus. It's between 9 and past, and then my phone made a strange noise and then cut off. Right, I've actually got something that's got this noise in it. It made the noise 3 times, and then the phone just went doo-doo-doo and just died. Full signal, nothing wrong with the signal or anything. Right, this is a noise that it made.
The TARDIS.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had that 3 times, like it did then. I said to Becky, I was half expecting Doctor Who theme to kick in then. I didn't relate it to any other noise other than the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Straight away, didn't you?
Straight away.
Wow.
Time travel. I've argued that, but I have rightly received a slap in the face because I kept saying time's not a reality. It is basically a measurement. It's not ethereal, but I'm wrong. I am wrong because it is all to do with time. You know, we're looking at it. I think I'm looking at it in a what's the word? I'm looking at in
too much of a dogmatic.
Dogmatic point of view. Where
going back, Andy, that's interesting, and 3 times, because I know that researchers, they say about 3 knots. I remembered Whitley Strieber saying about kept hearing through his incredible abduction and his communion book, where he had these 3 raps, and the sound of the TARDIS obviously indicates or is trying to get through to you, perhaps on a personal level, that spaceship. Time travel, things that, because I've got to tell you, I've always loved, and this is the other thing that really, I get annoyed about within the media circuit. I'm not so much today because a lot of people are now open-minded. What happened to you was incredible, and I think that they are signs on a personal level. But if you mention to anyone that, I'm interested or I write about science fiction, the media or children's books, the media would immediately, and they have done in the past with both me and Ronnie, not that there's any airs or graces with it, we're just struggling writers, we still are to a degree, we enjoy it, but they put you in a box, they put you in a category as though you're going to be a no-brainer to have a UFO experience. You're not supposed to be intellectual or have any interests, you're to be a blank canvas. But I will tell you, Andy, that the part of the problem with this phenomena is that I think a lot of people are trying to squeeze it all in the same box. It won't go in. It's multifaceted, it's multidimensional, and I think perhaps from your perspective, with this experience in an area that is famous, not just for the 1980 event at Bentwaters with the US military troops back then, which we all know about, but also within the surrounding area of Rendlesham Forest. And it's almost like you see there's some good films that have been made about UFOs and aliens, horror films. One of them did horrify me. I must admit, I thought, my God, if that's what they are, I'm getting out of it, because they were killing everyone. I thought, when I watched it, what the hell was it called? I can't remember. Well, anyway, it shows you that these levels of high strangeness, and most of the directors and the writers, most notably, in one of them, they put all these crows in them, crows acting strange and banging into the glass, and then paranormal activity happening. So I think for you, perhaps this was some kind of subliminal calling from maybe this interdimensional intelligence, reminding you of the fact that we're here.
That's amazing. That's pretty amazing. What you heard. Certainly time travel. Yes, Doctor Who. The time machine. Yes, something to do with time.
We know you, Andy. We've got your number, and they definitely have on your mobile phone, haven't they? So don't get worried.
It came through. It was more clear than that. This is just like a little plastic model of it with a button at the bottom, and it was like the TV show. It was like clear in stereo, and then the phone just cut off. Just cut off. And
high strangeness, and also I was very honoured. I don't know how I got mixed up with Rendlesham. I really don't. Not the original case, not the original guys. Most of them are really good guys. Colonel Charles Holt.
We don't go down that road.
I don't go down that road, but I did team up with Brenda Butler to research because we had we performed an experiment there on the 8th of June 1998 in summoning a UFO, and it actually occurred. And I was so stunned by it, and it did answer a burning question with regards to conscious interaction with these so-called intelligences that obviously operate in higher frequencies of our awareness. But one of the things I found amazing was that the Rendlesham area, famous for obviously the 1980 event in the winter of 1980 with the military, has a history of paranormal activity, rather like Paul Sinclair's Bempton and his research, rather like a Skinwalker Ranch in Utah and these other areas of high strangeness. And I think that these nests what's interesting from a researcher's point of view is that not just examining the UFO phenomena, but also investigating these other areas of high strangeness, it perhaps has got something either to do with the land, with the earth. It could even be linked with a deeper intelligence, with Gaia. Have we thought about that with regards to the Mother Earth itself? Because North American Indians and many other tribes would worship the planet, the Mother Earth, for what she was, because if you think about it, she has provided us with every single thing that surrounds us. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that maybe there is some kind of deeper conscious activation where this phenomena opens up to certain individuals who are responsive to it and also in alignment with it. But our translation may, in this form, in a human form, may not be enough to totally get what is actually going on.
Well, I said, I did discuss this, that, you know, it does seem to me that I'm not denouncing that there's off-world life. There quite possibly could be. I mean, with the case of Kathleen Marden, her auntie and uncle, I believe they did come from the star system, because Marjorie Fish later on confirmed that the diagram Betty drew was actually a reality. So I'm not disputing that. It's what I think there are certain factions of things happening with this kind of thing. I've only seen them once, to my mind. The Doctors in 1982. I'm not an abductee. I hate that word, because I was just taken against my will, and I saw them, something strange, and they weren't even real. You know, this is the ironic thing. They were evidently hiding behind some kind of guise. It did happen. This is not sleep paralysis. You know, people make me laugh when they go on about, you imagined it. I think we know, we're intelligent enough to assume what imagination is and reality. It did happen. It was against my will. I did not wish for it. You sometimes wonder whether you were pushed down that for a reason, but I can't think of any reason of it. And the wonderful thing about this subject is that no matter how deep we dig, no matter how much we research, do you know, we're left with a blank page. There's nothing. But that's why we need to speculate and what it is we're actually dealing with. But I mean, we have different opinions. Being twins, we have different opinions. That's good, isn't it? I mean, you're yin and yang.
Well, I will tell you, first of all, Ronald, that, you know, I think on Betty and Barney Hill, absolutely amazing case, real case, and the lovely Kathleen Marden, God love her. But the question begs, why would they come all that way to kidnap a loving couple? Now, also, going back to fantasy and reality, and without pushing too far ahead here, I have to say this before I forget it. Isn't it interesting how the system that we serve had tried for so many decades to assume that the UFO phenomena, most notably in that category, because we're addressing this phenomena more than anything, was nothing less than imagination or fantasy or delusion or lies or fabrication. Now we're coming into an age now where, and it's the truth of God, where more people than ever before would rather believe in a half lie or a half truth or a lie, and it's getting even more difficult to associate what is reality and what is not. We're moving into an age of holographic projection. We're moving into an age of
VR.
Yeah, VR. And CGI now, this has got to be said, because a lot of people, God love them, researchers, good, honest researchers, are fooled by a lot of the CGI footage. So I agree with you. And then it doesn't fare you any good, because if you do have a genuine piece of footage, someone will raise their ugly head and say, oh, that's CGI.
And Andy, this will make you laugh. You know, talking about deception, Sherlock Holmes plays a big part in our lives, because my granddad, bless his soul, do you know, that's how he used to start a sentence. Do you know?
Do you know?
You pick up the phone, and the first thing it says, do you know? Well, he got us into Sherlock Holmes, and although Sherlock Holmes is fictitious, that fictitious character's taught us a few things, elementary, you know, logic. So there was this will make you laugh, there was this forum, and I can't prove it, I'm not I'm not fibbing. This actually happened. It was a long time ago. It was some kind of group that were looking for giants in the earth. Now, I'm not disputing the Nephilim, might have existed. They might well have done. I'm not disputing that. But it was these skeletons that they were showing. And they had 3 giant skeletons with these alleged archaeologists upon them, looking somewhat mesmerized and befuddled by this incredible... Anyway, I looked at the skeleton, and my software allowed me to hone in. Now, fortunately, the jaw was visible on each different location. Now, these have been found in different parts of the world. There were 3. So I looked at, as Sherlock Holmes would do, I looked at a particular tooth. It interested me because it had a crack on it. So I zoomed in, and the other one had the same crack in another part of the world than the other one. I wrote to them, and I said, you do realize, don't you, that these pictures are doctored? I never heard a thing. Never heard. And this is absolutely true. There was another one where, because I'm being an artist, as you both know, I'm an artist. I'm an amateur, but I love art. It's so cool. And with CGI, because I'm working with digital, there is sometimes, not always. I mean, if you get the likes of Steven Spielberg, you're going to get state of the art. You can't tell if it's real or not, because ILM are just incredible. George Lucas and all that, they're amazing.
I'm sorry, I'm going to put my favourite up. Where is he? There he is.
Oh, Magnus the Micro.
Yeah, the space dog. Yeah.
Oh, yes, Magnus.
Yeah, I think I developed him a few years ago.
He was
the painting
originally designed in 1991 as a failed children's series, and he has a long history. Trust me on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, about getting back to this CGI, because I work with digital art, and someone said to me, it's cheating. It's not cheating. You start with a ball of clay. It's like plantain. You stretch it. It's no different from having clay. Imagination is your only limit. Philip said, imagination my only limit. I'll be dead in a week. Anyway, getting back to this another one, alleged this space. What they've done is, I don't know if you've both seen it. There was the scene of these impressive boomerang ships flying across this beach.
Yeah.
And I immediately knew the one way you can tell if they're not George Lucas's incredible ILM or Steven Spielberg's effects, because you wouldn't be able to tell with them. But with amateurish equipment, we don't have that money or that kind of technology. So there is a stiffness to them. There's a kind of stiffness. You'll notice that if they stand there for a minute, they go, there is just a slight, you can tell, or if the aliens just suddenly just drop down into the ground because they didn't have enough time to create a stairwell and they'd look false anyway. Anyway, these ships are going along and they're so bad, the CGI. And also on top of that, the people in the ocean are playing, just passing balls.
They're not even looking up at them.
They're so low. You can say they're not even looking up.
No one's looking.
So I said it was a fake, and this man he said to me, you prove this is a fake. I said, you prove it's genuine. So we're loggerheads. So they won't have it. They won't have it. You can't win. But I can't stand people who fake things. I know you both, Debs, as well, you both can't stand it. When they lie or fake, I can't stand it. I've given up looking at them. I can't be done with it. Especially the CGI of the alien that they apparently are interrogating, and he's sitting there like that. And you can see it's CGI.
I think that in all fairness, anyone that's involved within ufology, if anyone is found to be fabricating evidence, should be struck off. It's the same with any line of work. I know it sounds cruel, but you've got to be cruel to be kind, because this does not fare well for those truth seekers who are looking for the truth. And, I know there's a lot of people out there that have their own opinions, but we are, after all, only dealing with truth and with evidence, as much as that evidence, and, well, as little as we can get, but as much from people that we can amass in terms of their testimony and film footage. So I've always said, for anyone that fabricates, and then, of course, you've got to be careful, because people could then set you up. And this is a really nasty, ugly scene that we have within the world of ufology. But there's a lot of brilliant, wonderful researchers out there. And, we're very honored, like yourselves, to be connected with all these wonderful minds in our search for that truth. But I agree with you in terms of, people who very sadly believe that something is real. But I will tell you very quickly, Sherlock Holmes, going back to our grandfather, Ronnie and I believe, because our granddad bought us all the books on Sherlock Holmes, did you read them? Yes, Granddad, got bloody good books, he'd say. But he was always a book person.
He made us read them.
Yeah, he was a clever man. But I believed that Sherlock Holmes was real. I believed that he was real. And we've gone to a coach trip, I think it was with school, to 121 Baker Street, where the place was. And someone dropped the penny and said, yeah, it was a journey though. We'd actually been part of it.
No, I meant the number. What was it?
It's 121 Baker Street.
Can't remember.
Oh, I can't remember.
122B Baker Street.
No.
Well, yeah. I can't remember now. But anyway, I believed that Sherlock Holmes was a real man, and when the penny dropped, I was so distraught because the way that the author, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, had created this character and everyone, I thought he was real. And of course, the thing is, for me, then I remembered that I accepted the fact that he wasn't real, that this was just a figment of his imagination. But of course, when you're dealing with ufology, you know that we're not dealing with imagination, that you're dealing with real stuff.
Do you know those skeletons are fake? I could just hear my grandfather, bless him. Do you know?
And he sat there once, and what he would do with his glasses perched like that when he was reading his books, he'd just look up and one time he surprised both me and Ronnie because he'd just come out with it, and he'd say, "Do you know the pyramids of Egypt were built by aliens?" Well, I nearly dropped down.
Yeah, Granddad, this is strange because with our grandfather, because the subject then was taboo, we couldn't speak about anything. But it was at a time when he mentioned one time, I was absolutely bowled over when he said about the pyramids being built by aliens, and then he clammed up. And then he went on further to say that, do you know that the slaves were supplied with diamond-tipped drills or lasers, and if one lost one, they were executed? I thought, poor sod. Well, it's fine. I thought, couldn't the aliens put a tracking device in them if they lost them in the sand? But he was adamant that they were real, and this added to the bizarre nature of because we couldn't speak about it. And their granddad was saying that they're real, and I'll make you laugh about this. Anything paranormal. The reason why I didn't question it with him is because I don't know, I can't remember what year it was. I think I have documented it. Was it 1981? Prior to all this, they had, when we used to stay at them in Hounslow, Feltham, they had this bargain bookshop. No one had much money then, but they give us pocket money, and we go down, Philip and Diane. They were lovely, Grandma and Grandad. They were lovely. They give us pocket money, and we go up there. It was a real treat. So we go to this bargain bookshop, and they had all these books that were leftovers or whatever. And I saw one, Philip and I, and even then we were little so-and-sos because we take the mickey out of things. And there was a book about poltergeists. Now, I must make it clear they are real. I was just stupid and naive. But at the time, Philip and I were looking at these books and laughing. There were scenes of these girls jumping up in the bed. I said, they're just jumping up. I think this was at the time when Spielberg was releasing his poltergeist film. So it could generate some kind of interest. So we bought this cheap book. I think I paid about 99p for his hardback. I said, well, wait till we show Granddad. So we had it in a brown paper bag, and we went back home, and we were very excited. You are as kids, anything new, anything glossy or that. It's like magazines or books. I said, Granddad, look what we bought. Well, he went ballistic.
Oops.
What the
bloody hell
have you bought that for? Give me that. Give it to me. And he took it off us. And I was so shocked. He was furious. And later on, this was the admission he made. Yeah. Later on, he said, I'm sorry I lost my rag with you, but can I just tell you, you don't bloody well mess with the likes of them. So to add to confusion about these UFOs not being spoken of, it's now the paranormal. So there was truth to it, but Granddad kept clamming up. That was all we got from him. He wouldn't say any more.
That's it. So you were left thinking Granddad knows a lot, but he's not coming forward.
Telling us what it is.
That's it. And don't talk about it. So there was credence. So that was an admission, wasn't it? That was an admission. And it was that makes it even the more haunting because and he told us to burn the book. And we went home because we lived in Luton then, and we had this old wheelbarrow, and we did it without our parents seeing because you're not allowed to mess with magic. We burned the book. Yeah. So what did he want to hide from us? protecting us, I think, Grandad.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a 2-minute break and we'll come straight back.
Yes.
Yep.
Andy?
Yep. See you in 2. And we're back.
We are back in the room. So I need to ask you about this, Ronnie, if I can find it. Deborah, I downloaded all this just before we came on air. I want to ask you about this picture and what inspired that.
Wow.
Yeah, that is the demons confronting the priest. Do you know, it's funny you should ask that, Debs, because I'm told I'm psychic, and I swear I couldn't raise the skin of a rice pudding historic. Don't I couldn't. I've tried. I sat in circle for some years and I could get nothing. But something seems to have started or kick-started, some kind of intuition. I think we all have it. It's just it's dormant or it's activated by training. Mine, I'm a bit bone idle with that. So I did try in circle, but they seem to come to me in a kind of knowing. They just feel right. When I start on them, like the reptilians or the demons, and I start working, bit by bit on them, they just seem right. They just feel right. So I gather, because I saw a medium 25 years ago, because I didn't believe in it, as we said then, until she slapped me in the face, not physically. But
that would have been wrong.
I deserved it, though, because I was so arrogant. I didn't believe in it. Even after all the doctors and everything, I tried to hide it, shun it, but it kept coming back. It kept rearing back. They just feel right.
Yeah.
And this thing of demons, I mean, are they real? We can't dismiss them. I mean, religion is very controversial. We know that. I'm not religious, but I do believe in some power above us. I believe that we were created by something. We had to be. Nothing just comes about by chance. I know they'll say that's just the way we're conditioned or how. No, there's something behind all this.
Yeah.
So they just felt right. And is it possible? Is it true that perhaps there was a war with these creatures? We seem to label them as very holy. As soon as you mention demons, we receive this impression that it's a holy thing. It's like a distant watercolor painting that is cushioned. Are the Vatican cushioning us with some kind of vague history, when in actual fact they were a real species? The angels were real beings, and that some of them fell from grace, as we know, Lucifer and his lot, and they were punished for treason and cast aside. Possibly, we call it underground, but at the time, they didn't understand what dimensions were. But I would have thought if there was some kind of creator or God, it's only hypothetical, he would have wrapped them or contained them in a dimension of prison. So Is it possible that they've chipped away at this and broken out, or managed to, escape somehow, the beginning of it? We don't know. I mean, the Hadron Accelerator in Europe, what are they doing with that? The symbolisms behind that are very suspect, aren't they? The Shiver, the destroyer of worlds, and they will tell you that they're looking for something, but I would imagine with technology that sophisticated, they perhaps might be looking for something as well, something else. They're going to look into dimensions. It's like a door, isn't it, with a window? They're going to peek through. And is it possible that one of these doors, they've seen something, so they haven't enough energy to penetrate it, so they're building a bigger one? They'll call it to give them the oomph to break into it. They'll give you a story that this is pure science fiction, but it's not. I don't think it is, because I've heard from a particular lady whose relative works for them, and it's not all what they're stating, what they're doing. Yes, they are looking for the God particle. They're looking for the glue that binds us all together. They want to know, and I don't blame them on that. We're creatures of curiosity. That's fair enough. Even if they were smashing through to explore ultimate dimensions or ultra dimensions, there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, it's like NASA, isn't it? You're not going to get a straight answer. They're going to show you their preferred narrative. They're going to tell you their preferred narrative. Everything else is under lock and key. So it's only speculation, but I did have it from a lady that one of her relatives worked for the Hadron Accelerator, and in so many, the Hadron Collider. But in so many words, she could just state that they're doing a bit more than what they're letting on. Well, that wouldn't surprise us, would it? So,
I think looking at
the thing is, to me, messing about with things like that, they don't know the consequences of what they're doing.
No, that's right. That's right.
What's going to come through there?
Yes, and there was there's the thought, the hypothesis that with researching the Greys, I'm no expert. I can only bring certain theoretical models to the table. But one of the things that's interesting about them is that they appear to be so far removed from us in terms of empathy, of emotion, of individuality, and maybe they have lost themselves to those attributes and are trying to recreate themselves from the ashes of their past through us, through our genes, through our DNA. And the going back also to the fallen angel hypothesis, I agree with Ronnie. I mean, the way that we see it is like ancient and old, like its preferred narrative is mystical. But I think that perhaps this force could perhaps change in many ways, and it's trying to find its way into our physical dimension, and will use every ability that it's able to in order to get here. Obviously, one of the things we have, and we all do know, is that the experiences of, say it's a werewolf or a black cat or a ghost or UFOs or alien abductions are temporary, which means that they can only sustain themselves with our vibrational frequency, our reality, for short periods of time. That is something that is I think, key. It's like us going out into space. We can only survive for so long in a spacesuit through just above the stratosphere, and of course we will be affected by a lot of the hostile environment, the radiation and everything. So we can only ourselves stay out of our reality for so long. But it's certainly interesting, isn't it?
Another thing that pulled me into this UFO paradox was when I looked into the Roswell ship, the granddaddy of all crashes, 1947. And for me, I'm glad I published my book when I did. Philip Mantle, the wonderful Philip Mantle, when he published it in March of 21, it's because I had told him prior to it, I have an idea that ship was not brought down by lightning. What if it was a Trojan horse? And what's interesting was the fact that Jack Vallée brought out his book called Trinity on a separate incident, but he mentioned it as a gift. So we are, and this was after my book, he's a brilliant man, and he's come up with a lot of incredible, we owe it to him for what he's stating about what they could be. They're deceptive. Anyway, but we are, myself and Jeff are thinking along the same lines back then. He called it a gift, I called it a Trojan horse. But then I went a step further in my book, The Digital Demon, because I wondered there were other crashes around the Earth at that time, or nearer or around that time. I thought they had to look different, didn't they? They had to look different. The ships had to look different. The pilots had to look different because they would raise eyebrows, and people assuming, or the military assuming, who confiscated them or took them, that the same species was having the same problem, that they were downing a bottle of or two of spirits and let loose on the Earth to slam into the mountains. You know, I thought, well, what if
they at his best,
having a blasted argument as well on board, the pilots. But I kept thinking to myself, is it possible that this something of the same nature is sending these nuggets, making them appear different, creating the pilots? And don't get me wrong, I believe the Roswell crash. I believe a saucer smashed there. I believe there were pilots who were a crew. They were killed. The autopsy, no, I'm not going to go down that road. But I believe there were survivors. Perhaps one that lasted perhaps a few days or an hour or so, maybe a bit longer. But there might have been one. But there was a crew of pilots and there was a ship. So were these deliberately, were they created or conjured by this intelligence to plant something? And if so, that would be technology. And if so, why? So I go down a step further at thinking, if this is plausible, I can't say any of it is factual because it's just conjecture. We have no answers. It's only theory.
That's true.
If it is technology, that would suggest that what's being planted, could it be possible that it would lead to AI in the sense of this eventually being plugged in? This is only a hypothesis. And also, if it is, it would be logical, like Sherlock Holmes and our grandfather taught us, logic, deduction, is that if this thing that is dispatching these nuggets of gold to us for us to decipher is doing this, it goes to show that it's very ancient, patient, and also weak or limited in power. So it would need something huge, like it's all being plugged in to then be, we know what's going to happen, let's be honest. Let's look at it. They're talking about it now, plugging us in. That doesn't sound good, does it?
No.
I'm all for technology, but when they plug it into us, that's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Definitely.
If they plug us in and then control us, that's when I think the true essence of whatever it is will come through, because we will be weak. All it needs to do is control the puppet masters or kill them, game over. We don't know. It's only hypothetical. The good thing, the wonderful thing about this subject is, like the demons, like the interdimensionals, like the off-planet, we have no idea, but it's good to form different kinds of speculation. That's all we can do. And I love it. I think it's great when you think and think and think, you know, you try and come up with something new, because the people who state or suggest they have all the answers are, in my mind, I'm going to put this respectfully, fools. They know nothing. You know, they suggest that this particular class is this particular class is that. I do not believe it. And what is the linchpin of this in terms of their agenda? You will notice with these people that they will suggest that they're here to teach us the betterment of mankind. They've taught us nothing. They have done nothing. They are here. They are a reality, but they've done nothing. Let's be honest. They've done nothing. The Second World War, with Adolf Hitler, they had the Foo Fighters, I believe they were real, like cameras following the planes. They were just observing, they were watching, they did nothing to help. Millions of people were exterminated. And then they had the gall to tell abductees that, you know, we must become wiser and, you know, we're here to be taught the betterment of mankind. Nothing. Not a sausage. Rubbish.
Yeah, but we, unfortunately, within ufology, we have to step very carefully because we don't want to dismantle people's certain belief systems.
But anything you say will do.
Yes, that's right. But that's why we're open to conjecture. We're open to all forms of theoretical content, because nothing yet is solid, which categorically states what it is that we're dealing with. But and one of the fascinating things is that we know that it's real, that it exists, and it continuously eludes our consciousness every single time. So that is a fascinating part to it.
There is, I mean, we're not just denouncing, there's something here. We've seen them, but we don't know what they are. I mean, as I stated about the doctors, the Cheshire Cat, for goodness sake, it's like plucking out things from our mind or using them to cover what they really are, what this thing really is. And as for them being spacemen, that comes into question as well. As Jacques Vallée rightly stated, didn't he, that they can change faces. You know, it's very bizarre.
Very strange. Right, got a couple more questions for you. Is that okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Gonna go back a bit to what you said in the first half. This one's from Umbraman. When was your last interaction with any beings?
Well, the only time that I recall interaction with so-called beings was in the winter of 1989. There was the last interaction with UFOs, or now is the new acronym is UAPs, was on the 9th of April 2016 at precisely 11:15 p.m. at night. That had been filmed by my niece, has been analysed. There were other people who were involved with that. And that was the last time that we had a real close encounter, a close range with UFOs. But the 1989, I mean, there could well have been several other episodes of what people call alien abduction. I can't state for the record that, yes, that's what happened. But at this moment in time, there is things are in progress. And until we get to that point, with another brilliant researcher, I tend to steer away from that. But it's only the one that I recall clearly was interaction with aliens was in 1989, and yours in 1982.
Mine was in 1982. I have no memory of anything else. I wouldn't even call. I hate the word abductee. I'm not an abductee. I was snatched that single time. I saw them. They were strange, but it was only the beings I saw, or whatever they were, whatever they pretended to be, in 1982.
Right. Cool. Another question kind of related to that from Ancient Ruby. This is to both of you again. How would you describe their skin? Plus, how many fingers did they have?
Now, that's a good point. The doctors, as I said, were armoured or clothed. Yeah, but their fingers, someone actually did state this. They said, did you count? When they proceeded to knock me out, they presented this, he showed me this tool, which was like a pen with a nodule on the end. He pressed it on the top of my left hand and he knocked me out. They knocked me out. But I didn't count his fingers. I mean, I'm hardly going to be sitting there counting the digits on his hands. I'm horrified. I didn't. And I'm honest. I slipped up on that. I didn't make any note of his hands. And besides, was he real? You know, I don't. You know, when they present themselves as that and the Cheshire Cat and speaking the Queen's English, there's something very wrong. So even if I had counted his fingers, I doubt if that would have been real. It was a deception.
Well, with regard,
none of that adds up, does it?
No. And with mine, I mean, no, because where I found myself was in a semi-darkened room. There was some light ahead, slightly to the left, in another corridor that I knew was a corridor after the procedure. But one of the greys that came forward, I didn't have time to count his digits. I mean, it's like I recall and remember its skin tone color, which was like a creamy color. It looked quite smart. It seemed smooth. I mean, I didn't have a magnifying glass, so I couldn't go into fine detail. But the last grey that I saw during that experience, the one that I call Noddy, who was suited and booted, by the way. I'm not saying in a shirt, tie and everything, but he was in this very smart one-piece uniform with knee-length boots and this very smart, snazzy, pointed hat on his head, which reminded me of the character Noddy. Now, I can't remember how many fingers he had, because he had his arms folded across his chest like this, and his glance at me was really angry, and I remembered where the solar plexus is, that felt like I'd been punched there. But what I was fascinated with him was his smooth texture. If you've ever seen animated plastic moving, now that's interesting and quite scary. I'm not saying that Noddy was, and I call him endearingly now Noddy. I still want to punch him if I see him, because I couldn't move. I've got a lot of questions to ask that thing, but if you've seen animated plastic move, it's quite disconcerting. So I would say that the skin texture to this one, the last one that I saw, it has been documented, and I've written about it so exhaustively. I go over it again and again, but it looked plastic. It looked synthetic. It didn't look like our organic skin. Because we have a glow, don't we? Have a natural kind of like a glow to it.
Yeah.
So, and then people will jump on the bandwagon and say, "Oh, they're androids, they're whatever, they're AI." I'm not disputing that, but the thing the thing that Noddy and the others that I was interacting with, most certainly Noddy, appeared to be very different from the others, and I don't know why. He appeared and why he was so annoyed with me when I'd been sent back from the place where they were doing what they were doing. That's something that I don't think I'll ever know, unless, of course, there is more developments that's in progress. But as for the digits on its hands, no. I mean, people say to you when you've had an experience, you should have done this and you should have done that. And I'm not criticizing anyone, but, you don't stand there when you're having one of these experiences and just say, "Can you hold on a moment while I make the notes here?" That's it.
Yeah.
Carry on. Oh, hang on.
I've got a list of questions.
No.
Yeah.
Right, we've got another question from Umbra Man. Why do you think these beings share tech with people who will keep it secret?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I gather he's referring to perhaps the possible Roswell crash. The 1947 crash and others. It's funny, isn't it, how when we read about these incidents that the military always come in and take it. So what is it they know? And we can't prove that our technology has been derived from these ships. We have no proof, as we have no proof of anything to do with this paradox. There is nothing, not one shred of proof. It's only conjecture. But it's only a hypothesis as I look into many different aspects of this. If it is technology, well, it's amazing how we jump from the transistor to the microprocessor so quickly. I think it was Bell Technology or Bell, the rights of this microprocessor or the transistor, something to do with it. They made a huge leap. And then you have people who say that's insulting because that's the human way. That's how we evolve. But if you look at our history, if you look back, we were very primitive for eons. It's only the last 20th century, the beginning of that we really excelled, and then we really shot up the scale, didn't we?
So we were led to believe, and through a lot of the misinformation and the deliberate suppression within the scientific community of past cultures like Atlantis and Lumari and all the others.
Well, they were wiped out, weren't they?
That's another subject. But what's interesting is that I don't know so much about the technological aspects. I am absolutely convinced that has happened. I believe that the military elite, such as they are those secret departments of investigation, and they do have them, like you have the CIA and the FBI. I'm sure you have different segments within the departments of the military establishment, the core areas of military research, would have this technology. And we know from a lot of whistleblowers, believe them or not, that one of them, works on Area 51 and, came forward to release his story. But what you find with a lot of these people, and I believe that a lot of them are telling the truth, however unbelievable. Remember, we are going into areas of, that absolutely astound the way we think as human beings. There's always levels of high strangeness. But one of the things that I will say to you is that it's not so much that the technological part that I think that our military establishments crave for, because they want to utilize that to their own ends, because as one poor Irish man once said on a news feed that had nothing to do with UFOs, our mother always reminds us that when he was asked the questions, he said, "But we're just the prawns." He was meant to say the pawns, because we are the prawns, basically. But there is another aspect which is fascinating, and that is the essence of consciousness, the spiritual nature of reality, and something which science is, thankfully, beginning to understand is a reality when you go into areas of quantum mechanics and quantum research. So I think that we're going to find that this so-called technology that the good person has asked will eventually transform us in the right ways to new levels of dimensions of reality, where consciousness is able to interact with other levels of reality and escape this one, because we are prisoners basically on this planet.
You see, the point is, regarding the technology is we only have to look at the mobile phone now.
Yeah.
You look how mesmerized people are with that, and this is absolutely true. You confiscate.
I think I've got a message.
I hardly use mine. This is a little example of technology. You confiscate that of kids. They throw tantrums. They're mesmerized by these things. These are giving off false information. A lot of the media is contrived, and we're having to follow a preferred narrative. We know this. So imagine that getting inside our heads. They won't need us to have them plastered to the palms of our hands when they can control us much more efficiently when they're installed. This AI will be used, and they are talking about it.
Yeah.
They're talking about it, and it is a reality. It's not a conspiracy theory. This is going to come about. I have nothing against technology. We need it. We're going to need the robots of the future, the computers. We need any kind of power we can get. It's when they abuse it and they stick it in people, and they're going to do this. This is when control comes about. Imagine any despot's wildest dreams to control the herd, and they will do. But the way they'll sell this is they'll all go the sympathetic and the creative angle in stating that, it can foretell, and this has been mentioned already, it can foretell certain illnesses, it can forecast, it will be able to do that.
It'll be all for our benefit.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But underneath all that, there's a nasty sting, you see, because once they've got us all in this grip, then they will be able to control us. I think people say we're not being controlled. You just have to look at the TV. I think most people tell you it's contrived.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it's good. Some of the programs on Dallas was good, wasn't it? Dynasty was good, but it's shifted.
Yeah.
You see what's happening is shifting. It's now these reality shows with this technology. You have to look a certain way. You have to a certain way. It's as if we don't think anymore. You don't think. You just watch it. You believe you just keep waving your flags and paying your taxes, and you'll be all right. This is the way we're going. So imagine that then in our heads.
Yeah.
It's going to be. I'm going to tell you, it's going to be monstrous.
Directly fed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to stop it.
Yeah.
And that's when reality will be hard to distinguish from fantasy.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what the system we serve wants. And it is corrupt. I'm sorry, I'm going to say that.
I think most of us know that.
I think most of us know that. And the way that a lot of the propaganda that's been going on at the moment is assuring the fact through fear that, it's in our best interests to follow the official narrative, but they have lied. Yeah. And this proves it. And the UFO phenomena on its own in a separate department of investigations concerning the paranormal, as it were, as much as we can call it that, they have lied. And it's almost, did you notice also, good Lord, did you notice that when they were going to release that report, the Pentagon, and how all these, and I'm going to say it, famous people suddenly stepped out. I believe in UFOs, like they're bumping up their profiles.
Credibility.
Then what happened was that when the thin piece of paper came out, which really amounted to nothing, they all disappeared.
Yeah.
So you can see, can't you, that this is the most annoying part, I think, for a lot of good people who've had genuine abductions, genuine experiences with these, and they're not all bad. I'm going to put that right just now, within their mindset, within their connection of whatever they believe in, whatever comes into their reality. Yeah. But what is so annoying is that people can't see it. The system that we serve, that is meant to protect us and be truthful to us, has lied to us.
Yeah.
They have lied because they lie by saying that UFOs, now UAPs, don't exist. And now all of a sudden everyone's talking about it. Did we miss a part of the film somewhere?
Have you also noticed what they're doing? Is they're trying to denounce life after death. Yeah. They're trying to stamp on that. So it's moving us into an age, a cold age, because the computers, I mean, as much as we need them, and we do, but the mobile phones especially, are stripping children of manners. They don't know how to talk to people. They can't hold a proper conversation. It's a plastic world. So if anyone really thinks that's going to get better, they're greatly mistaken. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. But the governments and the powers that be will make it look like a wonderful sweet, a sugar-coated sweet. That this is going to be the great forward. This is the future. VR, the whole world is going to change to have us all connected to a central hub. But what I'm confused about, what confuses me, I can't work it out, because Elon Musk, he's going on they're stating that he's against AI. He's building these robots.
Yeah.
What on earth is going on there?
I can't work that out.
I can't. I thought he was all for the AI. Perhaps he is secretly. Bill Gates would be.
Oh, yeah.
If he could look at down that road, we'll go down that road.
No, we'll leave that there. We don't want banning.
Yeah, it's like the flavour's always changed, isn't it, with them? You know, he's against it, but he's developing starships to go to Mars. He's developing robots. So what kind of angle has he taken? I mean, I have great respect for him in some sense, but I don't understand what direction he's going.
I don't think he does, to be honest.
No, but I think that, to be honest with you, that, as we all know, that we, the public, have been deceived.
Yeah.
And that deception is still ongoing, especially where the reality of UFOs is concerned. And there's going to be a lot of frightened people out there, because even if, and we'll talk a little bit about disclosure here, even if, this is my argument, like some other people, even if the system that we serve, as corrupted as it is, comes forward and says that yes, UFOs, UFPs and aliens are real, but the next real problem is trying to explain to the public what these things are, where they come from, why they're here, and what they want. And if we look at the phenomena itself, it has masqueraded in varied forms to conceal itself from our reality. So I think what's going to happen is that if there is any form of disclosure to be had, which I don't think we're going to be getting anytime soon, there's going to have to be a re-education or an understanding with the general public to tell them the truth. But I've got a feeling that that's not going to happen. And do you know why? Because the process itself is quite frightening and also elusive, which we know, and does not serve our best interests as a species. Now, a large portion of that is factual from a lot of the evidence that we get, although the individual does go through some kind of personal and spiritual transformation. That much is true. But we can see that the initial experience does overwhelm the individual. So this is something that we've got to, that we're looking into. And, every researcher on the planet is trying to work out just what the hell is going on. But it doesn't help when our very own people, the people, as I said before, that we trust and rely on, have lied to us. And don't tell me they're protecting us, because if they had released a statement back in 1947, which, by the way, with regards to the crashing of a disc that was apparently a top secret mogul weather balloon, so top secret, may I remind the ladies and gentlemen here, that the military weren't even aware of where it was. They weren't even tracking it or looking for it. It was that top secret.
Yeah.
So I'll get that off my chest first of all. But, if they had come forward back then and said, yes, we have in our possession an unknown disc and we have retrieved bodies, and then I think a lot of things would have changed by now. But what happened was that disinformation then had been created, and this is why the deception has and they say, oh, it's because we don't want to frighten people or upset them.
No, I disagree on that point, because I'm angry at the authorities. They have lied about the existence of UFOs because they are real. We know they're real. We've seen them. A lot of people have seen them. The people in this kind of field would know about them. So I think the military had to switch the story, because they admitted that they had captured or in their possession a flying disc. So if they're in charge of the atomic bombs, God help us if they can mistake the flying saucers for anything other than what it was. They had to lie, because other countries, you see, we have to give them a little bit of credit. Other countries would then think, well, why did that land on United States soil?
Yeah.
And what have they got in their possession? It would have created paranoia, suspicion, and but then, as I rightly surmise, these other discs are crashing elsewhere. They'd keep quiet about it. you see, because was this instigated for a reason? As a gentleman said, why technology? We don't know. It's only a hypothesis. We're not sure. But something crashed there. These things have been crashing. And that's disconcerting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think, and also, if the Roswell ship had crashed by accident, it most certainly would have had a rescue party. There was no rescue party. They would have taken everything. They're very efficient. There was nothing. It's as if it was meant to just remain there and be discovered. And they're always outside of the capital, aren't they? They're always pushed outside populated areas so that they know this intelligence or whatever it is, this force knows us very well of how the military act in such circumstances.
Let's just have this scene in our head of the Greys watching this from a distance as they send one of these Trojan horses or a golden nugget to humanity. They're probably sitting back, completely leathered with cans of beer, laughing, saying, "Oh, look at them! Look, we got them there." I mean, that's sort of humor.
But it's good. You see, Philip and I are not set on one thing, and I think, like yourselves, we're very open to any kind of speculation. If I'm wrong, I admit it. I don't mind. I actually don't mind it. But we have to think of any kind of possibility as to what we're dealing with and what these things are. And I think if you open up all the many boxes, it's good. It's good too, because all right, you might be wrong there. You could be right there. You're near to the truth there. We don't know. But you have to open as many boxes as you possibly can.
I don't mind stating like what I believe, and then somebody coming forward and saying, but have you thought about this, or did you read that, or have you seen this?
Oh yeah.
Like, all right, yeah.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm not closed-minded enough to say no, you're wrong. Everybody.
Yeah, we need each other, innit? We need as many people as we can get to try and. Look, I'll bet you, if there was a table full of non-egotistical people, we would get some answers because we'll be bashing out, questions as to what we're dealing with. A think tank. That's what we need. Some kind of think tank.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely.
And I think that's why we're all brought together. Anybody that's in this, we're all brought together for a reason.
Well, we did try that with government. Nigel Ross, creator of Newport's National UFO Reporting Service, and I'd written a letter on behalf of Nigel to a senior member of Parliament, and saying, look, let's a detailed letter. I still have the letter. A copy of the letter. I did send the original one. And telling about the new falls and about the UFO movement and researchers, and that can we come to the table? Can we bring everything, lay everything that we have on the table? And you people work with us so that we share everything. We share everything. And, I got a wonderful reply back. It came in the guise of an invisible letter, silence. So, and this person had in Parliament been responsible for another very controversial UFO case. That went a little bit all AWOL. So you can see that, we, as all of us together, as researchers, investigators, experiencers, abductees, whatever you want, whatever your category you're in, all want the truth. But what is really nasty about this is that there's always like whisperings and, lies and everything's down these dark corridors of smoke and mirrors where you can't get to the original source of who you want to talk to. It is like the X-Files, isn't it?
What came to mind, if you displease people, you come up with something they don't like, or if you just tick them off. I mean, even Jesus had enemies, and that's something in it. I have this scene of, when they killed the Emperor of Rome, they stabbed in the back. It's like that. Infamy, they all me. But it's true. I think that, there's a lot of change now, and I think human belief system is beginning to change. The UFO subject, like most other areas of the paranormal, are not as taboo as they used to be. And it's really great to see a lot of good researchers bringing out new books, and especially with Philip Mental with his Flying Express, because he's bringing out a lot of books that you can't get ordinarily in a normal bookshop. So I think that's really great. And you'll find that they're reprinting some of the old classics as well, too, which is really wonderful. Books that cost a fortune on the internet. The Kelly Hopkinsville case was interesting. You say these varied faces these creatures wear. I mean, don't you think it's strange then? And I believe that did happen. I believe something like that did happen then. The Goblin, the Kelly Hopkinsville case, was how strange they were. I mean, it's as if they were new to the yard and they were just buzzing about it and ticking the family off. I mean, what would an intelligent species like that do that for? They wouldn't. It's as if something's toying with us. Something's toying or working us out, pushing our buttons, you know, even back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We've got loads of questions coming up now.
Yeah.
Right. Umbraman again. Do you think the current state of geopolitical and pandemic will have beings intervene? I mean, I know it's been said that they intervene in like nuclear war, it's sort of disabling them.
I personally don't. I don't. What is your opinion?
I used to have a wonderful vision in my head of if there was any threat to our culture, to our society, to our Earth, that these huge UFOs would appear and, would all ascend upwards. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the normal process of our passing, which I have investigated, will occur. We will pass back to the other side or fold back into the quantum realm of reality. And I think we will have to work it out from there, which is even more fascinating, but also frightening to contemplate. But no, I don't, because Ronald quite rightly said, if they were here to help us, genuinely help us, where is that help?
The Second World War. I mean, that was terrible. Millions of people exterminated, bombs everywhere. They did nothing. You can go back again and again and again. They've done nothing. And anyone wishes to contest that, they may do so, but where's the proof?
Yeah, I think we don't know. I mean, I hope that would happen, but there's a part of me deep inside my heart that just thinks it's not going to happen. We're left to our own devices. And, you hear all these stories about the Intergalactic Federation and they're not allowed to get involved. Well, I'm sorry, but they have. Some of them have broken that code, if that is real.
Yeah.
I don't believe in a federation.
I mean, whichever way you look at it, I believe in a hierarchy on a spiritual level. There could be one in the UFO field, but our investigations are raw. We're dealing with the rawness of it. The abductions, the experiences, the UFOs themselves. That's the raw nature of the reality that we're looking at. So I can't speak on behalf of people who have their own mindset. But
they're entitled to their beliefs.
Of course.
I mean, as we state, this is just only our own opinions.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be wrong. That's fine. But if people believe there is a federation, I don't have a problem with that. But I have my own opinions. There's not going to come in. There's not going to be any help from them. No, from my point of view, and no, there is no federation. The Second World War is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
And the First World War, any war.
Oh yeah. All of them. They've been seen, but they've been observed in the skies, but they haven't done anything.
They seem to be watching, most certainly, but doing nothing.
Yeah.
Watching it all play out.
Yeah, no, say if you go back in history to as far back as you can,
yes, that's right.
Nothing's been done.
They didn't. At the end of the day, the wars and the suffering of our world. It's almost like we as humans have to work it out ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of good people out there, because there are a lot of good people out there, would quite happily live peacefully and help one another. But, without getting too involved here at the moment, we can see that the powers that be, they don't want change. They don't want to evolve. They just want to bicker and argue and fight over money and power and control. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah,
so I think we'll find our answers when we pass. I'll get a refund then.
Right. Pat's asking, do either of you get inspiration or information during your dreaming?
The only time that happened to me was when I had the experience in 1996 after the 1989 event, where I was at work and I had this information about the Greys that I wrote up and submitted to Alien Encounters, a well-known magazine here in the UK, then it published all UFO stuff. And they called it revolutionary. Well, I was very honoured with its speculation. There was another ufologist who did not want me to be published then, but that's another story. But that was the only time when I felt that I had some kind of alternative help, because there's no way that I could have brought out this theoretical idea about what the Greys could possibly be, or their intentions or where they come from. So that was the only time, and a powerful time. So I do believe that dreams can change people, they can inspire people, of course they can. But that was the one moment where I knew, people call it a download, and I used to laugh about that. Shame on me. I'm not talking about, people who are gullible that believe that everything they get through is a download, but they happen sporadically and very rarely. But my God, when they happen, there's an infusion of conscious information, or super conscious information, which obviously has come through from another level. And that fascinated me, but I'm grateful for that, even if it put a tiny, tiny dot together through my understanding. But that was the only time. But I do believe that, most definitely.
Mine, no, it's just music. I get my inspiration.
Oh, yes, and music, yeah.
More music, yeah. Right, Andy, next question.
Yeah, next one is from Ancient Ruby. To both of you again, have they showed you your future yet?
No, the doctors never showed me anything. They never gave me any advice. They just proceeded to do what they were going to do, and that was it. I've had nothing from them, nothing.
The art of prophecy has always fascinated me.
That's from a
that's from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad.
But he said, didn't he, in the film, the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, yes, the Sultan, the Caliph. He was giving him a demonstration of this magic snake woman, and the Caliph said, "This is impossible. I am asleep." And the Caliph said, "I've got to do his voice. If so, I share your dream."
So Cora was the magician there.
Yeah, anyway, carry on. Sorry, Philip.
No, I was given no prophecy. The experience that I had back in '99 was raw, was very upsetting, and made no sense to me at the time. It still doesn't. I still, although, as I said before, there was another wonderful researcher who put a part of that together that I completely missed, that may tell us something of how ancient or old this intelligence is, or maybe the drama that unfolds beyond this realm of reality when we ourselves pass over, when our consciousness realigns back to source or returns back to higher dimensions or special states of reality. But I was shown none. But I have been told about certain aspects of my future through legitimate and good mediums. And they have been absolutely right. And of course, I had a prediction only once in terms of a real life prediction, because dealing also with not just the UFO subject of investigations, but also into the afterlife. And yes, I thought my reputation would be well and truly flushed down the toilet. There's the guy that believes in UFOs, and now he talks to the dead. But on a serious level of psychic investigations and consciousness, I wanted some proof from those on what we call the other side. And I'm talking about the dead, that we call the dead, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like signals to your mobile phone network system, they still survive once your physical apparatus is dead or not working properly. And the night before that happened was the night before 9/11. I didn't see anything, but I had these 3 major blasts, and I mean 3 of them, in the area, once again, of the solar plexus. The feeling of dread that I had was so intense that I recalled it at some other point within my life, but couldn't remember when. It was like every atom in my body had exploded and was sent outwards.
Yeah.
And of course, the next day, 3 buildings had come down. So I'm not going to get into the, the conspiracies of that, but I will tell you that another brilliant author, Dr. Judy Wood, that's known through, another wonderful author, and she wrote about the towers, and that there was some kind of energy which disabled matter.
Yes.
I said, you've got to be careful with what you say. You're not allowed to say too much about that. But I wonder now whether or not I had been given a future prediction on a major scale of something that would aid me within my own investigations of research many years later, because the pieces come together. There have been moments of prophecy clairvoyantly, but not by the aliens, no.
I've had recently some small insights. I mean, I sat in a circle and could get nothing through. I even went there drunk once. I actually went drunk because someone suggested it loosens you up. So I thought, I went drunk. I think about 5 or 6 cans of Foster's. I'd mixed it.
And you thought it was
a wine as well. So the medium could smell this. She was an old lady. She was a lovely lady. She was an old lady.
All right.
That's what she looked like.
Oh, she was lovely.
So I sat in circle and I could get nothing through. And it just, and I think I was with the spirit world, but not in the national sense anyway. But I had
the bottles.
Yeah, I got drunk. I mean, I felt really good, you know.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I could get nothing. I tried, but recently I've had very small, what we call premonitions. They're weak, they're sporadic, and they kind of don't make any sense until they happen. And one of them was to do with a very few minor incidents that happened that did come true. So I saw them either like waking or a dream. So the lady's quite correct. You do see some things when you're asleep, although you could often mistake it for a dream, but these things came true. Very minor things, very insignificant things. I'll give an example. One was of the Queen.
Right.
And I remember, if you remember the time when she fell ill, and I had a dream, I saw her sitting on this bench, and it was to do with her back. I kept seeing the doctor running his hand down her back, Her Majesty's back. And then afterwards, because they're very cagey, Buckingham Palace, they won't give it unless they have to, of course. And then it was her back. They announced, I said, well, blow me, an insignificant little thing like that. I mean, people would say it's random, you just guessed it. But I saw it clearly in a dream. She was sitting on this bench and he was running his finger down her back. And I did tell family and friends, and who then I clarified afterwards. So I can't prove it to anyone because I just think it's made up. Another one was of the Greys. And this was a waking vision. And I've written that in my book, If It Happens. I gather it was a premonition I saw because the day was all grey and they were creating this kind of mist around these trees. It looked like a tornado, but it was nothing like a tornado. It was very calm. But they were wrapping this woodland round with the greys, and Philip and I had to go in. And of course, grey, it's all grey. So it's the grey. And we went into the woodland. This is only what I saw. And in the centre, like the eye of a hurricane, it was clear. And I looked up and there's this spaceship hanging there, and they're arriving. So that's where it ended. I got the impression we were 72. We're in our 50s now.
Yeah.
So it's some way off yet. But it's funny, isn't it, how I think you've got to trust your instincts. If anyone has this, you know, if you're into this, don't palm it off as a dream. Just wait, you know, just wait and see. I've got yet to clarify this. So I'm holding them to it if it was a premonition. And what are we going to talk about anyway? I tell you what I'll do with them if I see them. I'm going to keep my distance. There'll be a distance from us. They can stand over there because I'm not getting anywhere near them. No. And I was fully clothed. So at least you're, you know, they're not stripping you and you're vulnerable. Well, it was very dignified.
What was an upside?
A bit of a bonus.
Yeah.
Right. Next question. Sorry. From Blue Shift. Were there any reptoids involved?
Yes, there were. In my 1989 abduction, there were 3 of them. And I will state for the record here that at the point when I had this very traumatic and embarrassing experience, when one of my first UFO books had been taken by a publisher, Cavalband Publishing Limited, I think it was in 2009, because the spiritual book they published in 2007, Reaching for the Divine. When I submitted the manuscript to my publisher, he said he would be more than happy to publish the book, but there was something that had to be retracted within the book. Right. And bearing in mind that this information had come out before in Matthew Williams's magazine many years before, Truth Seekers, I think it was. The whole thing was in there.
Yeah.
So I have a copy of that in my filing cabinet. But the publisher said, because this is coming out on a major level, he said, we'll have to retract the part about your procedure and the 3 reptilians. And of course, I had to go along with it because otherwise they would not publish the book. Because remember, back in the day, you know, the experience that I had was so far out and ridiculous that he felt that no one would take it seriously. To me, my pride was dented, but, you know, the information was there anyway. But yes, there were 3 of them. There was no communication. All I felt from them, they were quite big, muscular, they were dark. And no, I didn't see how many digits they had because they were wrapped in this kind of like mist. Yeah. But the feeling I had was devoid of any form of emotion, no empathy. I was just literally a piece of meat on a slab. Yeah. They didn't touch me. They did not communicate with me. They were merely observing. I assumed they were observing because it was the grey, the cream-coloured grey that came forward after the procedure and obviously ordered me to dress and release or must have mentally released the straps around me because I didn't see anything coming around to do that. So there were, yes. And I'm not an expert in reptilians, I'm afraid, but I have looked into them. And the only other time I did see one of all times, my brother can categorically confirm this, was when I went to go to a healer many years later. And I was laying on the healer's couch, and all of a sudden, in front of me, it was like an apparition that became real and then went out again.
Yeah.
Was a reptilian in this, and these ones that were on this craft were not in any form of uniform, they were just as they were. But this one had a black, smart, snazzy uniform on with an emblem on its chest plate. And I can't remember what the emblem said, but its face was kind of snazzy, like a dinosaur, but it had blue eyes. And I was so shocked when, after all these years, I remember just pulling back and then telling the healer what I'd seen when it went out. And then she was going off on this journey of what, and I thought, oh God, here we go. And I only report facts, but it was fascinating. And I felt that he was different from the other ones that I'd seen.
Yeah.
So no communication had been administered, no information at all, nothing. But it was fascinating. So I take an interest in them. They are interesting, and I'm not getting involved with everyone's debates about them. I can only report what I saw. But he was a nice guy.
I believe in him. Yes, I believe they're real.
He was a nice sir.
Yes, I do believe they're real. Yes,
probably one of the fifth column. I don't know, but from the.
Right, we've hit the 2 hour mark, but
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to pick a question for both of you before we go.
Yeah, sorry, just going to say, are you guys all right going over a few minutes?
I've got another session waiting, I'm afraid, in a minute. I can go, but Philip can wait.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we can answer a few more questions. Yeah,
Philip will be here.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
I've picked this one from Warren. Do Philip and Ronald believe the missing 411 concept is related to alien abductions?
You mean the David Pollide's and the Missing 411 books? That is most interesting. I'm not sure. I don't know. I have a feeling that the phenomena within these areas are linked with something far more nefarious.
I do. I think there's something to it.
I think that the UFOs are seen, yes, most notably, but the way I get it is it's very raw and it's disturbing.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something else. It reminds me of the film The Forbidden Planet with Robbie the Robot and with the Morbius, who was generating this monster. I'm not saying that people are creating that. No, I don't. But I'm very disturbed because a lot of the cases of people that disappear mysteriously are of those who have certain medical elements. As though they're quite not, pure. And I think that is, I will just say that they are disturbing in nature. It's
something paranormal. Yes.
It's possible because of cattle mutilation, and dare we mention the word, rare cases of human mutilation.
It's not done by people, that's for sure.
But so I think that there's a possibility, but I think that's a very dark area that I would love to go into, and I am looking into, but we have to skirt around that.
Yeah. Sadly. Andrew.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just going through them because a lot of these questions have been answered.
Yeah.
So this is from Richard the Red.
He's got. Yes.
It's all right. I'm really sorry. I have to go.
No, that's fine, Ronald.
Thank you so much. I really apologise. I've got to go. Thank you.
No, that's fine.
Good night.
Okay.
Sorry, Philip. It's all on you now.
Yeah.
I can stay for a few more minutes. No worries.
Yeah.
No worries. Thank you.
From Richard the Red. He's not far from you. He's over near Cranfield.
Oh yes, it's just up the road.
Yeah. So he's put. Does Philip or Ron know anything about Marston Church or St Mary's at Clophill?
Yes, that's the Devil's Claw. There's a local legend there about the devil separating the church from the tower and its claw being stuck in. And I was going to write a children's book. I'm not going to say what that was about, but that was rejected by Anderson Press. Never mind, a long story. And also the certain ley lines around the area. Yes, I'm very aware of that. We looked into that at that point after the initial experience that I had back in 1989. And that is interesting. Yes.
Yeah, no, because we did an investigation there, but we didn't document it as such.
Oh, right.
The one at Clop Hill. So we're going to be going back this summer.
Good, yeah. Oh, Clop Hill, not the Marston Church. That's where I was.
Yeah, no, I think Richard's been to Marston, but then me and Richard went to St Mary's at Clop Hill.
Right,
we're going to be going to both anyway. Once warmer. But that's going to have to be a pre-record because the signal around there is absolutely shocking. As you
yes, it is. Yeah, I've heard that many times before. You will, because of the intense, levels of psychic disruptions, as it were, or energies. Yeah.
So we'll get that one on. You all right for a couple more?
Yes.
Right. So one here from Joe Weeks. Do you think that there are good aliens that want to help us and bad ones that want us gone, as others have said?
I believe that there must be good aliens out there. Of course there are. Look, there's a lot of good people. You have a difference of people here on the human species. You've got the good people and there are bad people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The same will apply. But I think that looking at space reminds us that, the conventional method of space travel is not the way to go. I think interdimensional. The question I would ask is that these species may have tried to help us before, but maybe as a human species, we haven't helped ourselves. We may also be to blame for that. So absolutely, there is good and bad. I've dealt with the negative side, or, because, I can only speak from experience. I'm not saying that they were evil. Maybe that they've changed the way I think and feel as a human being. Maybe they've helped me. I don't know, but a lot of the experiences are not good. So that's where I've been focusing my understanding and research.
Right. Okay. Right. So just one more then. So this is from iFilm UFOs. Did either of you have a feeling of empowerment the day after your experiences?
No.
Nothing.
Broken. Right. I had physical marks, 3 marks behind my right ear that my brother tried to take with a Polaroid Kodak camera, the self-developing cameras. They didn't come out. 3 marks on my right arm. I had continuous nosebleeds to the right nostril. The thing in there may have been part of what was happening behind the ear, but I didn't feel that when it was happening. There was no sense of empowerment. I was broken, and Ronald was broken. So I wish that it had been a positive experience. And one American couple many years ago said the reason I experienced the negative abduction is because I'm a negative person, and I reminded them I am the least negative person on this planet. And of course, the guy had everything worked out. He kept rambling on. I thought, well, good luck. You've got it all worked out. Then you don't need me on this show, then, do you? It's like,
wow.
Well, that brings us to a close then. Thank you so much for being on.
Absolutely. Love having you guys on. Really.
And I'm so honoured to you, Deb and Andy, and many others of brilliant minds you all are, in us all sticking together and being good, close friends, and continuing to search for the truth. And I would say to anyone out there who is trying to find their way, always stick with the facts where you can. Always be honest and truthful to yourself. You don't have to upset anyone, but there again, unfortunately, just by opening your mouth, sometimes you can upset anyone. But I will tell you that, there are people out there who can help you. Although we're not experts, I will say gently, experts in the field who know what you've gone through, what you've experienced, and help you in that department.
Oh, and because other people, then you can refer them to somebody that you do know that can help.
Back then in the day, I knew no one. I think Jenny Randalls was the only one then that phoned us at one point, me and my brother, and she was very nice to us both, very interested in the stuff that happened to us, but that was then, but no one else. Until I joined a UFO group, and then, of course, then you were with people. I mean, okay, some people were wearing tin hats, bless them, not literally, but they were out there. But there were a lot of good people, and I love them all because the weird and wonderful, I embrace every one of you because I'm on the same page as you. Thank you, both of you, so much.
No,
thank you.
It's been great. Again.
Yeah. I just want to apologise to everyone who we didn't get a chance to ask their questions. I know some of them were answered as you was telling us what you've gone through and that.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll get you guys on again in the near future.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can always get one of my books. I've got to. Poor authors, us researchers don't even offer gold plates.
Right.
You, the public deceived, the grand UFO deception on Amazon, and Sky Crash. That's the next one that's coming out later next year. That's the investigation of the work. That's the book that Philip Mental, UFO royalty himself, brought out. So all thanks to him and to everyone else. I love them all. I love you all. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's like one of those American things, isn't it? I love you all. I love you all.
Right, John boy.
No. Thank you to Joe Weeks for doing the moderating.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all the chatters and the questions.
Deb for being me sidekick.
Love Deb.
Yeah. Feelings mutual.
And a massive massive thank you to everyone coming in on the chat and new subscribers and everyone that's joined in chatting, and it makes this worth doing every week. So,
definitely.
Wonderful.
100%.
Very honoured to be on your show. Thank you very much for having us both.
Thank you for being here.
Not a problem. Absolutely loved it. So
God bless.
Right. So we've gone over by a stupid amount of minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, 13.
Oh, it's 10.
God bless.
Oh, yeah, 10. Yeah. So next week, Deborah's in Bermuda.
I wish. Bridlington. I'm going to Benton, Philip.
Oh, lovely.
It begins with D and it's got a coast.
A weekend. So hopefully we'll meet up with Paul and everybody up on Benton Cliffs.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I have to go now, my lovelies. Thank you so much. God bless. Bye-bye. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. Oh,
I've got a real tickle. I'm really sorry.
Right. Yeah, so next Friday is me and Nathan, and we're going to be a bit boring compared to this. We're just going to be talking about
because I'm not here.
No, nothing to do with that. We're just going to be talking about the equipment that we use when we go out investigating and how we rig it up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's going to be other stuff. Nathan's got a few things wrote down that he wants to talk about.
Yeah.
But if you guys can just throw all your questions at him and get a bit more background on him for those that didn't watch it on Wednesday. And that's it, really.
Yep.
Oh, well, I remember. So the Wednesday decode is now changing as of May.
Yes.
So the decode is going to be the first Friday of each month rather than a Wednesday. So it's going back to Fridays and Fridays only.
Yeah.
So first Friday is a decode. The others are going to be investigations. Me, Deb, Nathan, or having a guest on our team.
Yeah.
So, and that is it. That's your everything. So a massive thank you for everyone coming on tonight. I've loved tonight. I love every Friday.
I know, it's great.
You just get every week they get better and better.
Yeah, I need a wage for this, really.
Sorry?
I need a wage for this. I think we shall talk afterwards.
So I need a pay rise. I'm currently on 0. No. Doesn't Joe do the wages?
Anyway, I'll see everybody in 2 weeks, and Andy will see you next week.
See you next week. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
And have a great weekend. See you soon, guys. Bye.
Bye.